songs can fly on the airwaves. They just need a chance to start. Purple songs can grow and hope and faith and fly from heart to heart.
Did you know Purple Songs Can Fly? Welcome to our program, produced by the Children in Treatment at the Texas Children's Cancer and Hematology Centers. Our program is about great music made by some terrific young talents. Now, here are the hosts of Purple Songs Can Fly.
Hello and welcome to Purple Songs Can Fly on the Voice America Kids Network. I'm Zachary Tavlin.
And my name is Emily Freeman.
And you're listening to Purple Songs Can Fly. So today we'll be talking with Child Life Specialist Extraordinaire, Miss Dana Swan. Hi Dana, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I think, at least from my perspective, this is the first time I've met you. I have no idea what a Child Life Specialist is, and I really, really do want to know. So just to start off for our audience, could you please tell us kind of a little bit about what a Child Life Specialist is and what you do?
What they do, yeah.
Well, we have a background in child development, and we specialize in how hospitalization and illness can impact a child's development. And so our goal is to keep the child developing as normally as possible despite all that they're going through. And we do that by preparing them for things, explaining to them what's going on with their bodies and why they're at the hospital, and also incorporating a lot of play and normalization into this environment to make it less scary and more fun.
Sure.
That sounds like a really critical role, really, in kind of making sure that a patient it remains a child and maintains growing through this experience.
And a great idea.
I really enjoy it. It's very rewarding to see, what an impact you can make to help make their journey a little easier or help just make that one day even a little bit easier for them.
Sure.
So how'd you get interested in child life?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't really know about child life. I was in college, and I knew that I wanted to work with children in a healthcare setting, and so I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician, and so I actually have a degree in chemistry and a minor in biology.
Really?
Wow.
Yes, and I used to work at a summer camp for disabled children. When I was in college, each summer I would spend at this camp, and we would experience different, children with different disabilities. Each week would be like a different disability, would focus on a different disability.
Okay.
And the summer before my senior year of college, one of my co-counselors was studying to be a child life specialist, and I was like, tell me more. And so she told me about it, and I was like, that's really what I wanted to do. I didn't know it existed.
Right, and it's like, that sounds
I was like,
really,
that's exactly
really
what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I knew just to work with children in that way, it was just very fascinating to me. And so, but I was already almost finished with my 4-year degree, so I went ahead and finished out my 4-year degree, and then I went and got my master's degree so that I could do child life, because it was a lot quicker than getting a whole nother 4-year degree. So since my first degree was not very relatable at all, so I went and got my master's degree so that I could do child life. So
Well, speaking as a freshman in college myself, in my infinite wisdom, I do know how difficult it is to get a chemistry major and a biology minor. I'm sure that prepares you for studying for child life in your master's. But I am curious, kind of, how does one study to be a child life specialist in grad school? Is it mostly hands-on, or is it really theoretical and like psychology based? Or?
It's a mixture, but I think a lot of the grad school part, the schooling part, is a lot of the theories. You write a lot of papers. You take a lot of child development courses. I happen to take a lot of counseling and play therapy courses. So it just sort of depends on what school you attend, but it is a lot of theory, like I said, and writing papers at first. I feel like once you do your internship in the hospital setting is where you really get the hands-on part, and that's really where you learn more of the day-to-day and how to apply all those theories that you've been learning about and writing papers about. So
Do you feel that those theories really did carry over strongly, or do you feel that you learned more from just kind of on-the-job experience?
I think that it gives the theories give a good foundation, but I feel like definitely the experience in being here, I feel like you really learn how to help the child, Experience, I think, is really the most valuable.
Right. So, as a child life specialist, do you ever find a child where, okay, I'm suggesting different things to do. Do they just don't jump into it? They're just I really don't want to do this, and you're kind of drawing a blank. Mm-hmm. Do you ever find a situation like that?
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely have, patients that for a particular procedure, for example, they just, and it's one that they might have to have over and over again, and they just can't seem to figure out a way to make, to make it easier for them. And so sometimes it's just trial and error. You just try different things and eventually you find something that works. But I feel like, it's kind of just sticking with it, trying to develop a routine around that procedure, trying to get the nursing staff involved and trying to create some consistency, and that sort of thing can really help.
Sure.
And sometimes it just takes time.
Yeah.
Right. So could you walk us through kind of a day in the life of a child life specialist? So what would be kind of a average day for you on the job?
Most of the time I start out, of course, by checking my census to see who's coming in that day. We also have a procedure area in the clinic, and so I always make a point to check in on the procedure area. A lot of the kids in the procedure area, they're not able to eat or drink, and so I want to make sure that I'm providing normalization and things for them to do so that they're not thinking about being hungry.
Right.
Because when they're thinking about being hungry, their anxiety just gets higher and higher. And so I want to try to, provide things to kind of keep their mind off of that. And also, if it's a child that's in that area for the first time, then I'll make sure and spend time with them to explain to them, what's going to happen that day. And that can sometimes, help reduce their anxiety as well. And I also look over the schedule to see if there's any new patients. And if there's new patients, I'll definitely make a point to introduce child life services to the new patients and the new families.
Yeah.
And help them, understand kind of what the day is going to be like, answer any questions that they might have, make sure that the patient is coping okay in clinic, especially if they're here for the first time. And then some of the times I'm just playing and building relationships, especially with the ones that are newer and not as comfortable. So we do a lot of play. I happen to work, most of my patients are preschool age because of the diagnosis that I work with. Yeah. It's just more common to happen in toddlers and preschool age children. And so I end up spending a lot of time just in play, I feel like, and just trying to make this environment, more fun and less scary.
Right.
And I really want to kind of talk more about the specifics of this when we get back from our break. During our break, please enjoy When It Comes From the Heart by me, Zachary. And I wrote this when I was 13 years old.
All the strides and all the struggles, all the valleys, all the hills, all the triumphs, all the sorrows, dedication to your field. You're a hero to so many, all around the world you're known. You have changed the course of history, made the world a better home. When it comes from the heart, it makes all the difference. You spent a lifetime mending hearts. Your healing hands made all the difference. All the lives you've saved, all the people you've touched. When we look back on the past, most of us have some regrets. You should have none. You've succeeded in the challenges you've met. You're a hero to to so many. All around the world you're known. You have changed the course of history. Made the world a better home. Made the world a better home. When it comes from the heart, it makes all the difference. You spent a lifetime mending hearts. Your healing hands have made all the difference. All the lives you've saved, all the people you've touched. When it comes from the heart, it makes all the difference. You spent a lifetime mending hearts. Your healing hands made all the difference. All the lives you've saved, all the people you've touched. All the world has a heartbeat, and you would surely know that all you have done is help the heartbeat to grow.
Welcome back to Purple Songs Can Fly on the Voice America Kids Network. I'm Zachary Tavlin,
And I'm Emily Freeman.
and we're going to continue with our conversation about being a child life specialist with Dana Swan, a child life specialist at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, Texas, where we are recording right now. So we were kind of talking a little bit when we cut about kind of your kind of day in the life. And you talked a lot about how you worked a lot with like preschool age around about children and did specific activities to make like treatment and life easier for them in a clinical environment.
And less scary.
And much less scary.
Yeah.
What would some of those kind of exercises be to help them?
And what all do you use?
I use dolls a lot. We have like teaching dolls that we can use that have portacaths, which a lot of our patients have those to get their treatment. And we do a lot of medical play where we actually use some of the medical equipment that they'll see in the clinic environment, the blood pressure cuffs, the stethoscopes,
Sure.
the all the supplies that they would use to actually perform a port access, and the patients can actually practice on the teaching dolls to help them get more familiar and more comfortable with the procedure. And so we do a lot of medical play to help prepare them for any type of procedure that they're going to encounter. And then sometimes we're just playing like normal childhood games, board games, puzzles, sometimes just building that relationship so so that way they know that I'm someone they can trust. And so sometimes it's just doing normal childhood things to help them get comfortable with me, and then I can, once they're comfortable with me and trust me, then we can, further explore, and get them comfortable with the hospital setting because they trust that what I'm telling them is true. So
That's great.
That is great. I mean, yeah, I heard you talk a little bit when you talked about your education, about how some of the things you worked with were learning, like play therapy and things of that nature. Is that medical play therapy itself, or is play therapy something different? It sounds like that kind of playing with the medical concepts really helps them.
It can be. There's different types of play therapy. And also, I feel like play therapy, it can be more non-directed, where you just sort of let them play and let them sort of lead the play. Whereas medical play, depending on what your purpose is, if you're preparing them for something or a procedure or surgery, it's more directed. And so you're kind of showing them what's going to happen instead of letting the child just take the lead. So it just sort of depends on what your goal is for the play. And so that can kind of be a little different.
Is the child aware that the doll represents kind of what they're going to go through, or are they just dealing with the concepts with something that's separate from themselves and they're familiar with it whenever they undergo a procedure?
Most of the time they're aware that they're like the doll, because I'll point out, like, see, this doll has a portacath like you do, and so a lot of times we try to make those similarities, right?
And okay.
So a lot of times they can kind of, and it's interesting, sometimes I will present like we have these cloth dolls that are just blank, and the children have to draw a face if they would like to, and so sometimes I'll present just a blank doll to them, and that's when it's more just letting the child lead the play and just kind of see where they go with it. And I always have them draw a face, and it's interesting to see how they draw the face. Like, is it a happy face or is it a sad face? And so it's interesting to see. A lot of times you can kind of tell how the child is feeling.
And you can see exactly how they're feeling.
Yes, so it's really neat to see kind of when you kind of let them lead sort of where they'll take it, and you can tell a lot about how they're feeling. And even when at such a young age, they can still project those feelings through their play.
That's really interesting how they kind of project that onto the blank canvas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you find there's a difference between different types of children, like girls and boys, and how they kind of interact with the play therapy and the kind of child life specialty?
Definitely. I feel like all children are so different. Boys, girls, I feel like they're all really different. And so I always try to, be very focused on the individual that's in front of me and not really compare it to other 5-year-olds. Because some of them, some of them, they might be the same age, but they may really be into medical play, whereas others might not enjoy medical play. And so sometimes you have to find a different way to teach them, or so sometimes it's just trial and error, and definitely just take them all as an individual
and improvise.
Exactly.
Do you use the same techniques on older children as well, or do things kind of change as they get older?
Definitely they change as they get older. Sometimes I use pictures, like we have pictures of different procedures and the steps, so they can look. It's sort of like looking at a picture book where you can go through each step, this is what's going to happen first,
and point things out.
Yes, or showing them the room. So I feel like I use a lot more pictures and sometimes just conversations, as they get older, and just kind of answering their questions and trying to determine, what are your worries, what are your concerns, and just kind of creating a plan. A lot of times it's just, helping them establish their own coping plan, because sometimes they may not need me necessarily in the room when they're having the procedure, but it's nice sometimes to be able to kind of help them create a plan beforehand if they are anxious or worried. So we can kind of create, what's going to help, through each step. And so helping to create that can be helpful for older patients.
That sounds super useful, just in a practical, everyday sense for these children as well, because they get to deal with that stress without it kind of eating them up in the inside.
Right.
Someone to help process it with them. Has this kind of thing always been available for patients, or is this a newer development?
Child life has been around. God, I think since the 1950s, maybe.
Really?
So it's really been around. It's definitely more common now than it used to be, for sure.
I had no idea.
It's been around. I don't think it's been at Texas Children's. It hasn't been at Texas Children's for that long.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure when the first child life program was started, and it was very small. It started just a couple of people.
Well, see, when I was diagnosed with cancer in June of 2009. I had never heard of a child life specialist, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
And I actually really want to talk more about kind of child life specialists and the kind of relationship with the public and other people as well when we get back from break. So this break, we're going to listen to a song called Being Invincible. And it was written by Leslie when she was 16 years old. Stay with us and enjoy. Welcome back to Purple Songs Can Fly on Voice America Kids. I'm Zach Tavlin.
I'm Emily Freeman.
And we're going to continue our conversation with Dana Swan, Child Life Specialist. So over the break, we talked a little bit, and some really cool concepts actually came out of this that I hadn't really heard before, and they sound very official, so I'm going to use them as if they were mine, but I did not say them. Ms. Swan said them. So could you please talk about, you talked a lot about purposeful play. Other people kind of see you as like that woman who plays with children just for fun, but there's a purpose behind kind of everything you do.
Yes, I get called the play lady a lot by physicians and just staff in the cancer center, and I I accept the title happily because I do enjoy playing, but there's always a purpose behind my play, whether it's, trying to help the child get comfortable with just being in clinic,
Right.
Whether it's helping them understand why they're here, or helping, prepare them for a procedure that they're about to experience. I always have a purpose, and sometimes just building that relationship, it's just building those relationships. And so we definitely always have something in mind when we're playing.
Right. It's so much more than that.
It
Right.
is. It is.
And one more interesting concept that kind of came out of break a little bit, you talked about building relationships. And you talked about how you don't even need to speak kind of the same language because you can use kind of playing in that kind of environment to convey so much.
It's a universal language.
Yes, definitely.
So do you want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, some of my closest relationships can happen even with children that don't speak the same language as me, because like you said, play is a universal language.
Right.
And so we can always communicate using play, and that's how young children communicate, is play.
Yeah.
They're not able to express what they're feeling or thinking. A lot of times they don't have the vocabulary to kind of express that, and so it all comes out in their play. And especially with children that come here from other countries or that haven't learned English, that's not their primary language, just showing them what's going to happen playing with a doll, or just bringing normalization, just bringing play into that room can make them just change their whole attitude and make them less afraid and see me as a less threatening person. They can, when I'm bringing them fun things,
Right.
they start to realize, oh, she's not going to poke me, or she's not going to, I had like the fun job. And so just by being able to do that, they're able to get comfortable and start to trust me, and I can kind of be that support for them.
So once you've identified maybe a possible issue, like you've played with a child for a while and you realize they're having a difficult time understanding why they're there, or they're having a difficult time processing stress with treatment, or something like that. How do you deal with those emergent issues? Do you personally just kind of focus more on making them more comfortable, or whatever would be required to help them deal with that particular problem, or do you refer them to someone else who will help them deal with that?
I think I definitely try to help them as much as I can. Sometimes if it's out of my scope, or they need further help, we definitely have psychologists we can refer them to. I also think music is very powerful.
Yes.
And so sometimes being able to refer them to Purple Songs Can Fly, for example, can be so therapeutic, because maybe they're ones, they might be a patient that they're not comfortable with just sitting down and talking to someone, but just, having the ability to write a song or work with someone to write a song can help them kind of express some of the things that they're feeling. And so that's another great way, is through some of our art programs here. Like we have watercolor artists that come in, different types of art. And so that's another thing that can be very powerful to children that are having a hard time expressing themselves verbally. There's just so many other ways they can express what they're feeling.
And I think it's
Yeah.
great because it'll take your mind off of something scary you're going through. I know that's
Really
true with me. I just love I love all that child life specialists do, and everything.
And I personally know that kind of experience of some children don't want to open up really applies to me as a child, although you might not know it now. And I always did enjoy talking. At the time, I was kind of very scared of the environment of the hospital when I was being diagnosed, because there's a lot of unknown factors. I didn't really know what was going on.
Right.
It was very confusing. I was up there a lot. And so I just was in the corner of my little thing, and it took someone coming up to me and being like, we don't even need to talk about this. We can write about anything. I wrote a little poem about not eating fish, and then that became something I wrote a song about, right? And just doing something that wasn't totally unrelated to treatment in an artistic way really helped me become more comfortable with just the environment as a whole, and really kind of helped me deal with that a lot.
And embrace it.
Right, and embrace it. And I was a little bit older too. I started coming when I was about 11, so it probably was a little different for me, but I found that was very, very helpful.
Right.
When you talk about using different techniques and toys and dolls and such, has there been have you noticed a change moving forward in time towards things more like technology based? I know when I see children, I see them a lot with iPads.
Right.
Right.
We actually have iPads now that we use a lot for education.
Really?
And so it's really cool because we use drawing apps, or there's tons of applications about like the body and how different parts of the body work, and so we can actually use those to make it more interactive, and especially for the kids that are really engaging in technology these days, it makes it more fun, like a fun way for them to learn.
Right. And I kind of want to talk a little bit more about this as well, as it relates to kind of children and growth, and how that kind of carries through as they grow older when we get back from break. So in this break, we're going to listen to a song, Dream, which was written by Stephanie when she was 15 years old. And this is another kind of universal language, kind of like play, because it's music.
You have to believe in yourself, believe that anything can happen. If you have faith, show to the world what's inside of you. So why wait? You're ready for this. You're free, let your mind fly. Be free, like imagining it's your time to shine. Dream, you have all that it takes. Dream, you can shine like the sun. It's never too late to dream. Dream, you have all that it takes. Dream, you can shine like the sun. It's never too late to dream. You have to listen to your heart. Listen to your own voice inside of you. It's in your hands. Don't let it go. Show to the world you're looking for something new. Act now, let the magic begin. Be free and shine. Dream,
Welcome back to Purple Songs Can Fly on the Voice America Kids Network. I am Zach Tavlin.
I'm Emily Freeman.
And we're going to continue with our conversation about child life specialties and how that kind of carries forward into an older child's life with Dana Swan, a child life specialist at Texas Children's Hospital.
Yes.
And so I kind of just said it there a little bit. My main question after last segment was kind of, how do you see children grow as they get older, and do you follow them as well, or do you mostly focus on younger children, or does their treatment and play and kind of child life specialty follow them throughout their treatment cycle?
I still try to continue to follow them. I don't follow them, the further out from treatment they get, I don't follow them as closely. But I'm still involved in them finishing treatment and returning back to school. A lot of times it's another thing the child life specialist can help with is transitioning them back to their school and being more normal. Sometimes the patient may still look a little different from just the effects of treatment, the side effects and that sort of thing. And so one of the things that I really enjoy is going into that child's school and explaining to their class, where they've been, why they may look a little different, help answer all their questions, clear up any misconceptions they may have.
Well, I think that's great because everybody has a question. Everybody has a question, and they may not feel comfortable asking the patient those questions that they may have.
Exactly. So. And so I had a patient on Friday who is just terrified of going back to school. She's 10, and she's just terrified. And so, just sitting down with her and just making a plan. Okay, it's time to go back to school, so we have to figure out how to help you feel as comfortable as possible. So just making a plan of going out to visit her school, and also sitting down with her and figuring out, okay, what questions are you afraid of, and kind of identifying those and coming up with a response, helping her come up with a response. So when she's asked that question, she feels empowered and she knows what to say.
How are we going to cope with this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so even, writing out scripts, okay, if someone asks you this, what are you going to say? And actually practicing it and just helping her, feel empowered, I feel like, so that she can, make that transition. Because sometimes, for some patients it's more scary than others. It just sort of depends on your personality.
Right.
But that's another part of my job that I really enjoy, is helping them sort of transition back into normal life as well.
How long had she, or even just patients in general, how long are they generally kind of out of school?
It depends on the diagnosis. I typically follow patients that have leukemia and lymphoma. So typically around 6 months to 7 months, probably, I would say they're out of school. And so, just depending on, if it's summer when they get diagnosed or what have you, can kind of determine. But the actual treatments can last, up to 3 years for the but you just don't have to come to clinic as often, so you're able to return back to your school and more normal life, as normal as possible, but still taking a lot of oral medications at home.
Yeah.
So it just sort of depends on the diagnosis. But
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would you say that being a child life specialist, do you see a strong impact with certain children as they grow older in their treatment? I can imagine if this is a 3-year process, and you start with someone that maybe is in preschool, do you see them as they grow older and are still kind of in treatment really kind of grow and really handle these issues since you're with them for such a long period of time?
Definitely. And we have a long-term survivor clinic here at Texas Children's. So it's really amazing. So the patients will still come back once a year for checkups. And I've been at Texas Children's for a little over 12 years now. And so I've truly seen children, start treatment when they're 3 or 4 and then become, they're teenagers now. And so it's been really neat to see them grow up and to see the people that they become. And I feel like this experience can really change you or change the patient. I feel like I don't know if it prepares them in some way, but I feel like they always just turn out really nice. I don't really know how to explain it. Yes. Yeah. It's just really interesting to see how the experience can really impact them for the better. I mean, I feel like
Yes.
they all take something from it.
Right?
That is so cool.
And so to children listening to this now and thinking, this sounds like an amazing thing to do. I would love to do this. Do you have any advice for them or tips or tricks of how to become a child life specialist?
Volunteering can be very important. Like, as much experience with children that you can get can be very helpful when you're trying to prepare for a career as a child life specialist. So if you're able to volunteer, in a children's hospital or your church even, just wherever you can find those opportunities, that can be very helpful. And then your schooling, just getting a good foundation in child development can kind of prepare you for that. And then, of course, the internship. There's an internship that you do once you finish your schooling, and that truly prepares you, I feel like, for your kind of day-to-day work, where you're really applying what you learned in school it's more practical and hands-on. So, and then it's time for a job in the real world. So, and with child life, you don't really, like when I did my internship, it's interesting. I didn't really work with patients that had cancer or blood disorders. And so when I went to apply for my first job, there just happened to be an opening with cancer patients. And so I really didn't have any experience with cancer patients until my first job. And I feel like I just sort of fell in love, and I've been with that population since I started, and I just have really enjoyed it. But when you're doing your internship, you sort of do more general things. You might get a little experience in a couple of specific areas, but it's just interesting that I ended up in cancer because I didn't really have any formal training in cancer at all.
Right.
But it's been very rewarding. So.
And it's also been very rewarding getting just to talk to you.
Yes.
I really wanted to thank you from both of us for coming here today and talking about this. And I'm sure, as a recipient of just this kind of environment, thank you for doing your work and really making that impact with kids' lives.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
Well, we're going to end this show by a song by Brandon called Love Power, and he was 14 when he wrote it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Joy in my soul, it makes me sing, it lifts me up, it makes my heart ring pure and simple. Love is kind, love is uniting, it helps me unwind. You make me fly. Girl, I've never been so high.
Thanks for listening to Purple Songs Can Fly. We'll see you again next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Kids channel. And remember, for more information about the Purple Songs Can Fly project, visit www.purplesongscanfly.org. We'll be back with more music next week.
Purple songs can fly.